How often do you sit down to write an email in English and think, is this professional enough? Is it polite? Is the grammar right? And then, rather than stress out about those questions, you just use AI because it's so easy. Now, previously, maybe you used tools like Grammarly to check your spelling or fix grammar mistakes. But now you moved on to Gemini or ChatGPT to write those emails for you. All you have to do is ask for the email, copy, paste, and send. Done. But there's a chance those emails don't sound the way that you think they do. They may not sound as professional as you hope. Now, if you're using AI to write your emails in English, do not worry. You are absolutely not alone. My goal today is to help you use it well. I want you to think for a moment. Have you ever received an email in your native language that was generated from AI, especially from someone you know, like a friend or a coworker? How did it sound to you? Did it sound different? And how did you feel when you read it? Almost every week, I get emails that were clearly copied from AI. Some even include the prompt that was used, like write Anne-Marie to ask about. We all know that the world of email writing has changed. And many people, native and non-native speakers, are still figuring out what's okay to do and what isn't. Back in 2022, I shared a lesson titled Write Professional Emails in English, Step by Step. And everything in that lesson is still 100% valid. In fact, it's exactly why I think we need this lesson today. We need to talk about this common use of AI and how to use it well for your emails in English. Because yes, AI is super helpful, but it can also take away your natural voice and authenticity. It can actually make you sound less confident rather than more. It can even reduce trust in what you're saying. So today, let's talk about what has changed in writing emails in English and what you need to know now, including how to recognize robotic or overly formal email language, how to sound natural, clear, and authentically human in your writing, and how to use AI as a tool with confidence, but not as a replacement for you. Now, before we dive into everything that's new with I want to briefly highlight what has not changed based on that lesson that I did in 2022. Now, if you've watched that original lesson on writing professional emails in English, you know there are some clear standards that we follow when we're writing for work. It's important to be clear, be polite, and be concise, or to get to the point quickly. And none of that has changed. Whether you're writing an email on your own or with the help of a tool, those things still matter. In fact, all the tips that I shared in that lesson are 100% relevant today. Things like choosing a clear subject line, including a greeting and a polite closing, keeping your email short and simple, using clear structure and formatting, reviewing your grammar, tone, and clarity before you click send. So if you're already using those steps, that's awesome. You've got a strong foundation. What has changed is how we write, or if we're actually writing. In the past, if you didn't know how to say something, you might have used a dictionary or translator to help. But now, many people aren't writing at all. Instead, it's just a quick prompt to an AI tool, something like write an email to a colleague asking about a deadline extension. And that leads to a complete email. And while it's fast and convenient, it's also where things can go wrong. What AI gives you might be clear and grammatically correct, although it isn't always, but it might also sound stiff or cold, impersonal, or even awkward. And there's something else to be honest about. The more we rely on AI to write for us, the more we risk losing two things: trust in each other and our own ability to communicate clearly. Not because AI is bad, but because it often misses the emotional cues that make our messages feel real. It can also misunderstand context. It can sound robotic, and it can create a sense of distance between you and the person reading your message, even if the words are polite. In fact, the more everyone uses it, the harder it becomes to know if we're hearing someone's real voice. And when that happens, trust fades little by little. At least that's what I'm feeling, and you might be too. So, in the rest of this lesson, I want to help you recognize when something sounds robotic or too formal in English. I want to help you learn how to sound more human and clear and use tools like AI in a way that supports you without replacing you. Because ultimately, that's how you build real trust in your English writing and with others. In a moment, I'm going to share with you some clear examples of robotic or overly formal English. But before we do, I want to start with something important. The tone or the feel of your email depends on your relationship with the person that you're writing to. We communicate our tone through the words and the sentence structures we use. And when it comes to email, there's no perfect tone that we use for all emails. Sometimes we use formal email. Sometimes formal English is the right choice, especially when you're writing to someone in a position of authority, or if it's the first time you're writing to someone, or if the situation is super serious or highly professional. But in many work settings, especially in English speaking culture, using formal or stiff English when it's not needed can create distance. It can sound cold, impersonal, and even confusing. That's why your first question before you start writing or before you even give a prompt to AI is, what is my relationship with this person? Are they a manager or someone in leadership? If so, maybe the best tone is formal. Or is this a colleague, a team member? In that case, you may want to use more casual or neutral language. Or is this someone you know well, someone you communicate with regularly? In that case, you could certainly use a more friendly, natural, very casual tone. So, with that in mind, let's talk a little bit about what makes an email sound off or strange, even when the grammar is perfect, because this is where AI and even templates can go wrong. And if you're not used to hearing natural English every day, it's easy to miss what sounds robotic in an email. So, what do robotic emails sound like? Well, they often use expressions that are too formal, outdated, impersonal, or overly stiff. I've used that word a few times now, stiff, and it's used to mean that something has no warmth, emotion, or natural flow. So, to make this easy, I thought it would be helpful to look at some real examples and talk about why they don't feel right and what sounds better instead. The first example is, please be advised that. Why does this one feel off? Well, it sounds like legal English or governmental writing, which instantly creates distance. It's overly formal. So, an alternative to this is, I'm writing to let you know, or just letting you know. Next is kindly find attached. Kindly is a bit outdated and overly polite. It's not something we hear in natural English conversations or modern emails. So, a better alternative to this is, I've attached, or you'll find the file attached. Next up, we have, I remain at your disposal. This is most likely a direct translation from other languages, but in English, it sounds overly formal and unnatural, like something from a business letter written 50 years ago. Instead of that, you could use, let me know if you have any questions, or happy to help if you need anything else. Now, here's one that I often see. It would be greatly appreciated if. This is long, formal, and doesn't really reflect how people naturally ask for things in English. So instead, you could use, I'd really appreciate it if you could, or would you be able to? And finally, our last example, I hope this email finds you well. I just had a question about this in a workshop that I did. And the truth is, it's so overused. that it often feels impersonal, like it's from a line copied in a template. And in many cases, it's just unnecessary. So instead, you could start an email with, I hope you're doing well, or just skip it completely and go straight to the point. Now, when you review these alternatives that I've shared with you, you'll notice a couple of key differences. First, the clearer versions are still professional and polite, but they sound more natural and more human, with shorter sentences and the use of modal verbs like would and could. Also, they use contractions, words like I've and I'd. These are used in everyday conversation and they immediately make your tone warmer and friendlier. As a result, these sentences sound like something you would say to a real person in a real conversation or a real email, not like something copied from a policy document. So now that you know how to recognize this more robotic or overly formal language, how do you actually make sure that your emails sound clear, confident, and like you? Whether you're writing on your own or using AI to help you, I have a simple 3-step process that you can use to write better emails in English every time. Step number 1 is plan your purpose. Before you write anything, ask yourself these 2 questions. Why am I writing this email? And what do I want the other person to do or know? If you're not really sure how to say something in English, try writing the answer to those 2 questions in your native language first. And then I don't want you to translate the exact words, but I do want you to translate the idea of those answers into English. This step can give you clarity and it can help you avoid unnecessary details, long explanations, or going off topic. For example, you might say, I want to confirm the time of our meeting, or I need to ask for help with a presentation. I'm replying to a request for information. All of these answer the purpose of why you're writing, and you can put them directly into the email for clarity and simplicity right away. Step number 2 is write your email or your prompt for AI with care. You can write the email yourself, of course, or you could use a tool like AI. Either way, this is where we have to think about that tone that we've learned about and the structure of our email. If you're writing the email yourself, keep it short and polite. Use simple, clear words and focus on just one main idea in each paragraph. Now, if you're going to use AI, it's important to start with a helpful prompt and as much detail as possible. For example, write a short, polite email to a colleague asking for an update on a report. Then, and this is the key, edit what AI gives you. Take a moment to review and then adjust the tone. Remove any language that is overly formal or robotic and add your voice. We're going to talk more about that in the next step, but I want you to remember this. AI can give you a draft of an email, but it cannot replace your judgment or your humanity. And that brings me to step 3, proofread and personalize. I always recommend reading your email out loud. This can help you hear whether the language sounds too formal or robotic, and you can ask yourself these questions. Does this sound like me, or does it sound like a machine? Will this feel comfortable for the person reading it? And is the tone right for our relationship? After you do that and make any necessary changes, you can also add a sentence or two that shows your voice and your care. For example, thanks so much for your help, or looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Let me know if you have any questions. And then finally, double check your grammar, your formatting, and your spelling. I want you to remember that AI doesn't always get it right. Once you've done those 3 steps, you're ready to click send with confidence. Now, while we're talking about this, I think it's important to be clear and honest about something. Not every situation is the right time for a tool like AI. In fact, some of the most important emails you ever write are the ones where your voice, your tone, and your empathy matter the most. That includes apologies, difficult messages or rejections, requests that require sensitivity, like feedback to a team member, or high stakes follow ups and conflict resolution. In those emails, what matters the most isn't perfect grammar, but it's how the other person feels when they read your message. And no tool can understand your relationships, your values, or your intentions the way that you do. So, if the email that you need to send is sensitive, personal, or emotional, don't delegate it. Write it yourself, or at least make sure it sounds like it is written by you and you mean every word. All right, I know we've covered a lot in this lesson, and this wasn't my usual focus on speaking skills or English conversation practice. But here's why this matters. Writing emails is communication, and communication is all about clarity, connection, and confidence, whether you're speaking or writing. I mentioned earlier that I'm definitely noticing a shift in trust as more and more emails and other things that we interact with are AI generated. And maybe you're feeling exactly the same way. So I think it's helpful for all of us to remember that without question, AI can help us a lot, but it's a tool and it doesn't replace the human behind the message. Your judgment still matters, your tone still matters, your voice still matters. And at the end of every email is another real person, and that person deserves a message from you that feels natural, respectful, and human. So, whether you're using AI to assist you or writing every word yourself, the goal is absolutely the same: a clear message, a confident tone, and a conversation that feels real. That's how you build trust. And that's how you lead with confidence. And it's what I want for you in every email that you write in English. Now, if you found this lesson helpful to you today, I would love to know. And you can tell me in one very simple way. Give this lesson a thumbs up here on YouTube. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe so you never miss one of my Confident English lessons. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time.